Millionaire's journey interrupted. A woman's life-changing words revealed he left hidden in awe. Tom Henderson stood at the edge of everything he'd ever built, staring into the vast chasm of uncertainty. A self-made millionaire with crisp suits and sharp ties, he felt like a ghost wandering through a world where wealth had drowned his spirit. He turned in his resignation today, a corporate titan turned refugee, seeking treasure not found in dollar signs. The townspeople of Oakwood couldn't wrap their heads around it. They sat in the local diner, coffee cups poised, murmuring over their scrambled eggs. What could possibly possess the town's golden boy to step away from the game? As the whispers filled the air, Tom felt it tugging at his heart. What was the price of his success? A voice whispered in his mind, echoing the values his mother instilled in him. Love, sacrifice, community. He recalled how she worked 2 jobs just to put food on the table. Each smile she gave him brimming with hope, radiating strength. He had built his empire alone, yet the emptiness lingered like an unwelcome guest. Meanwhile, Sarah, a dedicated schoolteacher struggling to keep her classroom vibrant, felt her own weight dragging her down. With student loans looming large and a mortgage that seemed endlessly growing, she exemplified the silent battle that so many in Oakwood faced. While sorting through donations at the local community center, she unearthed an old, delicate letter. It was a message from Tom's late mother, a cascade of love and wisdom spilling onto the page. As she read those words, tears welled, igniting something profound inside her, a connection to a stranger she barely knew, yet one who made her believe a brighter path existed. Though their lives were worlds apart, a bond began to form, glittering amidst their struggles. Rumors bubbled around them. How could a millionaire and a teacher ever find common ground? But to Tom, Sarah was a beacon showing him fragments of the life he wanted to reclaim, far removed from the suffocating hustle of board meetings and endless targets. With the annual Oakwood Fair approaching, the townsfolk prepared for joyous revelry, their lives punctuated by laughter and celebration. Yet beneath the colorful banners lay unease, a growing divide in their hometown. Tom felt a flicker of courage ignite within him. Inspired by Sarah's strength, he resolved to leverage this moment. He envisioned sharing the letter, unveiling truths that might unite them as a community once more. Stepping onto the makeshift stage, a hush fell over the crowd. The shimmering summer sun warmed his back, casting long shadows of uncertainty on the faces before him. What does it mean to be truly successful? He asked, his heart thudding against his chest. Can we redefine our worth beyond the dollar signs? The air thickened with anticipation. Just before he shared his mother's deepest wisdom, thunder split the sky, shaking him to the core. What was more terrifying? The storm above or the storm brewing in their hearts? Would they be ready for the truth he was about to unveil? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Heart racing, Tom steeled himself. Could he inspire them during this tumultuous moment? What if, through his story and his mother's heartfelt words, he could bridge the chasm of silence that had grown in their town? The silence weighed heavy, but hope flickered like lightning across the darkening sky. Would the community rise with him? Would they embrace the message of love and unity he was desperate to share? Or would the storm drown out the words that could change everything? Tom took a deep breath, sensing the gravity of the moment. The crowd leaned forward, faces mixed with curiosity and skepticism, and he knew he had only one chance to make an impact. He clutched the letter tightly, feeling its delicate edges press against his palm. The storm overhead rumbled, but within him, he felt an unexpected calm. Growing up, my mom always told me real success isn't about what you have, but who you are and how you lift others up, he began, his voice steadying with each word. She would say, Tom, money is a tool, not the measure of your worth. A ripple of murmurs swept through the gathered crowd. He could see their faces softening, caught off guard by the rawness of his honesty. The rain began to fall, gentle at first, like a whisper from the heavens, but it quickly picked up, competing with the pounding of his heart. He felt instinctively that sharing his mother's words might change something in Oakwood. Listen, he continued, back in the day we didn't have much. Just my mom and me. She worked tirelessly for us to get by. But every time we saw someone struggle, she'd gather whatever we had left and help. The memories flooded in community dinners, celebrating block parties, people supporting one another in times of need. My mother taught me the importance of love and connection, of being there for one another. His eyes scanned the crowd, landing on Sarah, who stood slightly apart, tears shimmering in the corners of her eyes. In that moment he saw not just a teacher but somebody bearing the weight of the world, longing for change. Something clicked within him. This was his moment to acknowledge the truth he had kept hidden for too long. Her wisdom comes from a place of experience. Love is what binds us, supports us in the toughest of times. It's what makes us truly wealthy. He tried to raise his voice against the rising storm, but the roar of thunder seemed almost cheerful by comparison. If there's one thing I want to share today, it's this. Success is about investing in people. And it starts here with us. The rain fell heavier, drenching him and the crowd, but he pressed on. I'm ready to give back, to share everything I have learned, to support our community. If you're with me, let us create an Oakwood that thrives on empathy and understanding. Tom felt an electric shift in the air, a collective shiver of anticipation. A few people in the crowd nodded. Some started to applaud. The storm raged on, but for the first time it felt like a cleansing, like a birth of something new, perhaps even stronger than before. But just as hope flickered and excitement spread through the audience, he heard an unusual sound rising above the murmur, a single voice crying out from the back. What's the point, Tom? What do you know about struggle? It was Mr. Collins, a staunch critic of Tom's return. The crowd fell silent, the tension palpable. Tom's heart raced again. This was the last thing he anticipated. Was he ready to face the questions, the doubts that lurked even among those who had once admired him? Was he strong enough to confront his own hidden uncertainties as the storm continued to brew both outside and within? What would it take to truly earn their trust? With all eyes on him, he stood at the crossroads of vulnerability and courage, feeling the storm's weight bearing down. Would he find a way to connect with those who doubted him? Or would this moment forever fracture their community? Tom felt his chest tighten as Mr. Collins' words echoed in the stunned silence. Doubt hung in the air like the thick, dark clouds overhead. He glanced around the crowd, searching for familiar faces, for signs of support, but found only uncertainty reflected back at him. Mr. Collins, he finally said, his voice louder than the crackling thunder. I understand your skepticism. You have every right to question me. The moment felt raw and real. He knew he had come back to Oakwood with dreams of making a difference, but the reality of proving himself stung like shards of ice. But let me tell you something. He inhaled deeply, feeling the rain soak through his clothes, grounding him. I may not know what it's like to struggle the way many of you have, but I do know this: love is universal. And you don't need to be poor to see someone in pain. You just need to have a heart. He braced himself for a reaction, but Mr. Collins stood with brows furrowed, the tension in his jaw visible. You talk about love like it's a cure for everything. What does that even mean for people who can't afford to feed their families? Or students worried about keeping their homes? Tom felt the heat of anger mixed with shame wash over him. They were valid questions, and he needed a response that resonated with deeper truths. Too often we place our worth in our possessions or our status. But what if we shifted that? What if we invested our energy into the relationships around us? Imagine if we all shared what we had, whether that's time, skills, or even a kind word. That's what builds a community. They stood locked in a standoff, the storm raging on around them. The crowd was hesitant, unsure whether to trust him, and he could feel their hearts beating in time with the thunder. I'm not just asking for your faith in me. I'm inviting you to join me in this vision. For a moment, he locked eyes with Sarah again. Her expression was a mix of doubt and hope, as if she was waiting for the crack through which the light might shine. We can create opportunities that uplift us all, but I can't do it alone. It has to start with each of us. As the rain continued to pour, he led by example and took a step toward Mr. Collins. I'm ready to listen to your experiences. I want to understand what you and this community have been through. Share your stories with me. Help me become the person who can actually make a change. The crowd stirred, uncertainty mingling with curiosity. Could it really be that simple? Who are you really, Tom? A voice piped up from the side. What do you stand for? In that pivotal moment, Tom realized this wasn't just about him anymore. The struggle was collective. I stand for change, one that recognizes each person's story. I want to be the neighbor my mom taught me to be. If you allow me, I will be here every step of the way. Let us lift each other. Let us build something real. Thunder crackled overhead, but now it felt more like applause than anger. The crowd began to murmur among themselves, the doubts starting to ebb as conversations sparked. Tom stood tall, awaiting responses with an open heart. He could see sparks of understanding deepening in others' eyes, making him feel a glimmer of hope. But just then, an elderly woman stepped forward, trembling with age and emotion. You think you know what it means to care, but it takes more than words, young man. Her voice was firm and cracks of life echoed within her gaze. Are you truly ready to give of yourself to change things at a deeper level? As her challenging question hung in the stormy air, Tom felt the weight of it settle on his shoulders. Could he really embody the change he longed for? Would he be able to turn this beautiful concept of community into tangible actions and heal the fractures in Oakwood? His heart raced again, feeling the momentum of something transformative taking root. The real work was just beginning, and as he faced the group, the echoes of their lives swirling around him, he knew the next steps might be the hardest of all. How would he respond to the call for action? And was he truly prepared for the journey that lay ahead? Tom's mind raced as the elderly woman's words clung to him like the rain drenching his clothes. He could feel the weight of the crowd's attention, their doubts shifting into a palpable energy that demanded action. He took a step back, considering. He had spoken of love and community, but now he had to back it up with real intention, changing things at a deeper level. He murmured, letting the phrase sink in. Is that all you've got, Tom? Someone from the back shouted. What are you going to do for us? The challenge hung in the air, sharp and stinging. In that moment, Tom understood. This wasn't just about what he could give. It was about understanding what they needed. He took a breath, grounding himself. I want to start by hearing your stories. His eyes scanned the crowd, looking for anyone who might feel bold enough to share. Each of you carries a piece of this community's heart. If you're willing to open up, I promise I will listen. There was a pause, and he could see a flicker of hesitation in their expressions. But then a woman in the front, her hair streaked with gray but her eyes bright, stepped forward. I've lived here my whole life, she began, her voice steady but soft. I raised my kids here, but things have gotten tough. My husband lost his job and I'm scared. We're just scraping by. Tom felt empathy bloom in his chest. Thank you for sharing that with us, he replied, making sure to maintain eye contact. What do you need right now? The woman looked surprised, as if no one had ever asked her that before. We need food. We need support for families like mine, those who are struggling to make ends meet. He nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. What if we set up a community kitchen? A place where families can come for meals, give their children the nourishment they need. We could involve local farmers and restaurants to donate what they can. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Mr. Collins's voice broke through the noise. That's a start, Tom. But what about the long term? We need jobs, opportunities, something sustainable. Tom felt the fire reignite in his belly. You're right. What if we created a community workshop? A place to teach people skills that can help them find work? We could partner with local businesses to provide training. A young man stepped forward, his youthful face drawn with worry. But who will lead these efforts? We need someone we can trust. I'm here, Tom responded, raising his voice to be clear over the growing buzz. I may not have all the answers yet, but I'm ready to fight for this community. I'll work alongside you hand in hand. I want to build this together. The rain began to ease just a little, like a softening in the hearts of the crowd. Then Sarah stepped up, her expression a mixture of awe and inspiration. I believe in you, Tom, but we need to see action. Words are nice, but actions will show that you really care. Tom nodded, feeling a surge of determination. Then let us take the first step tonight. We can set up a meeting at the community center. We can gather ideas, brainstorm together, figure out what we want our Oakwood to be. The crowd began to chatter excitedly, the atmosphere electric with newfound hope. It was a small spark, but like a fire it could spread. As he watched their faces light up, he felt the connection building, a community coming together. But somewhere in the back of his mind, a sense of doubt crept in. Could he actually deliver on this promise? Would he find the strength to follow through with the plans brewing in his heart? The night wore on, and as the crowd dispersed with eager conversation buzzing in the air, Tom lingered, his mind racing with possibilities. The future of Oakwood lay ahead, uncertain but filled with potential. And just like the storm that had brought him here, change was coming. But would he be ready for the challenges that lay ahead? He knew this was just the beginning and the real work was only just starting to unfold. Tom stood alone for a moment, the dampness of the evening air mixing with the vibrant buzz of excitement left by the departing crowd. The sense of urgency was building inside him like the clouds that had just passed. He had sparked something, but could he truly fan it into a flame? He ran a hand through his hair, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. Sarah's words echoed in his head. Actions. They needed to see action. He had to be ready to follow through. What now? He whispered to himself, glancing around the emptying square. The echoes of laughter and chatter floated away in the wind, and he knew he couldn't let this opportunity slip away. Tom pulled out his phone and began typing a quick message to the community center. He wanted to reserve a room for their first meeting, but it suddenly felt so inadequate, like a raindrop in the ocean of what needed to happen. As he turned to leave, he spotted the elderly woman from earlier sitting alone on a bench. Her face was softened by the dim glow of the street lamp, a map of resilience drawn in the lines around her mouth. The moment felt surreal, as if he were being drawn to her like a moth to a flame. He approached with caution. "Are you okay?" She looked up, recognizing him. "I am, dear. Just thinking." "What are you thinking about?" The question tumbled out with more curiosity than he intended. She chuckled softly, the sound like crinkling leaves. "About how much we've lost and how little it takes to come together again. You see, I remember a time when Oakwood thrived. We had our struggles, but we had hope. I see that spark in you." Her words wrapped around his heart. "Do you really think we can bring that back?" "Starts with hope, Tom. You found some tonight. Just don't let go of it. Believe in it and it will grow." He nodded, feeling the warmth of her belief ignite something deep within him. "I want to believe. I need to believe." She reached for his hand. "Then gather those who are willing to fight for their home. Show them that hope can be turned to action. And don't forget, when you stumble you can lean on us. We've been through storms before." Tom's heart quickened as he grasped her hand. "Thank you. Your words mean more than you know." The thought of his meeting, the potential for change, suddenly felt more tangible. He needed allies. As he walked back home, the cool night air filled with fresh resolve. He envisioned the community center, buzzing with neighbors sharing ideas, laughter, and dreams. The next morning would be filled with planning. A flyer announcing the meeting, a network of emails sent out, encouraging people to come. Voices would rise, tears might fall, but action would be born. Just as he stepped through his front door, a chime on his phone signaled a new message. Tom paused. It was from Sarah. "I'm with you, Tom. Let us start this movement together." He smiled, his heart lifting. He opened the reply box to tell her that hope was just the beginning. Then he paused, his finger hovering over the send button. Should he share his vision, the bigger picture he had just started piecing together? He hesitated, visions of failure creeping back into his mind. What if he set expectations too high? Or disappointed them all with an idea that wouldn't take flight? Taking a deep breath, he remembered the elderly woman's words. Hope in action. He needed to believe. In that moment he felt the pulse of change coursing through his veins, the door wide open for something transformative to walk through. But just as new excitement surged within him, doubts followed like dark clouds on the horizon, threatening to rain on his parade. Could he really guide Oakwood towards a better tomorrow? And what would happen if he believed too hard and the crash was too great? Feeling both exhilarated and terrified, he clicked send. Tom paused, staring at his phone. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, hinting at the storm ahead. The first waves of his journey were just beginning. The road to bring the community together was fraught with uncertainty, but it was also bursting with possibility. What challenges awaited him as he stepped into this new role? And would he harness the courage to face them head-on? The world around him felt alive with potential. Just how alive would it become with the risk he was ready to take? The sun rose early the next morning, beams of light breaking through Tom's window, as if the world was ushering him into a new day of possibilities. He could already feel a hum of excitement coursing through him, a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Today would be pivotal. What if those he reached out to responded with enthusiasm? What if they too could feel the spark the elderly woman had seen in him? He brewed a strong cup of coffee, trying to shake off the lingering doubts. Each sip felt like fuel for his determination, as if it were awakening a sleeping giant inside. Tom made a list, jotting down names of neighbors he thought would show up to the meeting. Sarah's name was at the top, followed by Mr. Jenkins, the retired schoolteacher who had lived in Oakwood for over 50 years. His wisdom and patience would be invaluable. As he typed up the flyer, his heart raced. "Join us for a community meeting," it read in bold letters. "Let us discuss how we can bring hope and action to Oakwood." He imagined communities buzzing with ideas, laughter spilling over as they shared their hopes. Each word felt like a promise, a pull towards something greater. After sending out the emails, he took a deep breath, mentally preparing himself for the evening. He knew he needed to stay grounded, to keep a sense of direction amidst the storm of excitement swirling around him. Hours later, as dusk began to settle over Oakwood, Tom arrived at the community center. He opened the door, and the familiar scent of old wood and linoleum flooded his senses. Chairs were arranged in a loose circle, and a small table at the front held refreshments. Everything felt ready, yet his stomach twisted with anxiety as the clock inched closer to the start time. He paced the floor. What if nobody showed? What if they laughed at his ideas? Just as he was about to let the doubts take hold, Sarah arrived, a smile on her face and a ripple of energy radiating from her. She brought with her a wave of relief. "Hey Tom, this looks great," she exclaimed, her eyes scanning the room. "Thanks, I just hope we get a good turnout." "We will," she assured him. "The people of Oakwood want to be heard. They just need someone to spark that fire." One by one, the doors opened and neighbors trickled in. Mr. Jenkins was there, followed by a young couple with their child, and then a few older residents who looked curious yet hopeful. Each face was a reminder that change starts with a few willing hearts. As Tom stood there watching people take their seats, a wave of warmth washed over him. This was it. This was what he had envisioned. He gathered his thoughts, feeling the weight of responsibility shift from a burden to a blessing. Once everyone was settled, Tom cleared his throat, his voice steadying, holding on to the hope radiating from the room. "Thank you all for coming. I know we've faced hardships as a community, but I believe together we can create something beautiful." The atmosphere shifted, a palpable sense of hope weaving through the air. Questions sprang forth, ideas were exchanged, and laughter echoed around the room. Tom couldn't contain the smile forming on his face. They were united, ready to tackle the challenges ahead. But just as ideas flowed, a tense silence fell when a voice from the back called out, "So what's the plan?" It was a reminder that many were skeptical, clinging to past disappointments. Tom took a deep breath. A plan starts with a conversation, but it also needs action. He could feel the pressure mounting again, the weight of expectations heavy on his shoulders. But instead of retreating into doubt, he squared his shoulders and focused on the faces around him. They were eager. They were here for change. As the meeting continued, Tom felt the bond strengthening, the foundation of something larger taking shape. Yet amid the excitement lay an ominous question. Would this unity hold when faced with real challenges? And just as he was beginning to feel that bond solidify, a familiar voice crackled through the silence, demanding attention. It belonged to someone no one could have expected. "Let us not get ahead of ourselves, Tom. You know this community is not one to trust easily." Tom's heart raced. Who did this voice belong to, and what did it mean for the hopeful path he was trying to forge? The room fell silent, and all eyes shifted to the back where the voice had emerged. It was Mrs. Landry, a fixture in the community, known for her sharp tongue and a keen sense of skepticism. Her presence seemed to suck the air out of the room. Tom's heart pounded. She was right. This community had seen its fair share of broken promises. How could he convince them that this time would be different? "I understand your concerns, Mrs. Landry," he replied, forcing his voice to remain calm despite the quiver beneath. "But together we can build something we can trust." A murmur rippled through the group, a mix of agreement and resistance. It was a delicate balance, and if he pushed too hard he risked losing them. He glanced at Sarah, searching for encouragement, and found her nodding, eyes sparkling with belief. "But what will that look like?" she asked, breaking the tension and offering Tom a lifeline. "We need tangible steps, Tom. We need direction. Tangible steps." The words rang in his mind like an alarm bell. He scrambled to organize his thoughts. "Right. Let us start with small projects. Maybe a community garden? It could be a space for us to not only grow plants but to nurture relationships too." Some faces lit up, recalling fond memories of hands in the dirt and sharing laughter under the sun. Others, though, frowned skeptically. Old habits die hard, and not everyone was ready to plant seeds of hope. "Gardening?" Mrs. Landry scoffed, tilting her head. "We need jobs and infrastructure, not tomatoes and carrots." "No," Tom interjected, raising his voice a notch, "we need to start somewhere. If we can work together on something small, it can pave the way for something bigger." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Faces remained uncertain, as if waiting for a sign. Tom could feel the pressure building in his chest. This was the moment that could define him. He could retreat into defeat, or he could push forward with the community's spirits in mind. "Let us put it to a vote," he suggested, his voice softer now, almost pleading. "Who here believes we should at least give it a try? We can form a committee to discuss plans together." One hand slowly went up, then another. Murmurs of "why not?" began to circulate, and with that a small wave of courage washed over Tom. Suddenly, hands were raising. People began sharing thoughts on community involvement and how they could contribute. But just then Mrs. Landry's voice broke through again, sharper than before. "If this is just about gardening, I for one won't be part of it." Her eyes darted around the room. What's the real agenda here? Tom's insides churned at the challenge. She didn't believe in him. Did anyone? "The agenda is simple," he said, now more confident. "It's about giving ourselves a chance. We've waited long enough for someone to take action. Isn't it time we become our own champions?" Whispers turned into conversation. People exchanged glances, buzzing with tentative interest. But fear still echoed beneath the surface. Before Tom could sum up their gathering, a hand shot up from the back, a newcomer. "I'm not from Oakwood," the young woman said, an earnest expression on her face, "but I believe in what you're saying. Everyone deserves a chance." Hope flickered again, and this time it seemed to reach everyone in the room. Tom felt warmth swell within him. They were on the brink. This meeting could transform into something they hadn't experienced in years. As he spoke of support, of connections, of a future they could create together, he caught a glimpse of the smiles forming, but Mrs. Landry still scowled at his hopeful words. But deep down Tom wondered, could this truly work? Trust was still a fragile thread. As the meeting continued, he felt as if he were tiptoeing on the edge of a precipice, one step away from falling into oblivion. "Before we end, let us make a plan for next week's meeting," he said, hoping to harness the energy electrifying the room. Just then Mrs. Landry interrupted again, her voice low but piercing. "And I will be watching. One misstep, Tom, and you won tea." Get a second chance. Tom's heart sank. Would he really be under the watchful eye of skepticism, waiting for him to fail? The air was thick with unspoken worries, yet under it all he felt a flicker of hope. A community willing to rebuild from the ashes could rise stronger than before. But would they truly come together, or would doubt drive them apart once again? As the meeting drew to a close, whispers filled the room about next steps, but a gnawing fear lingered. What if they weren't strong enough? What if Mrs. Landry was right? The question hung heavy as Tom left the community center, knowing their journey was just beginning. Tomorrow he would need to confront not just the doubts of others but his own nagging fears. And maybe, just maybe, this time hope would forge a path through the shadows. The morning light filtered through the old oak trees lining Elm Street, casting dappled patterns on the sidewalk. Tom paused, taking a deep breath. Today was the day things had to change. He felt a mix of excitement and fear as he glanced at the community center. He had spent sleepless nights dreaming of a better Oakwood, but dreamers often found themselves colliding with reality. His mind buzzed with plans for the community garden. He had envisioned vibrant flowers and fresh vegetables, a place for laughter and connection. But with Mrs. Landry's shadow looming over him, Doubt crawled back in. Tom stepped inside the center, where old paint began to peel like the community's dwindling hope. He spotted familiar faces, his neighbors, his friends, and they were talking, more animated than before. With trepidation he approached them. "Glad to see you all," he said, trying to inject enthusiasm into his voice. "Great idea about the garden, Tom," someone called out from the back. Another voice, vibrant and youthful, chimed in, "I can't wait to dig in. When do we start?" The warmth of their words wrapped around him like a snug blanket. "Let us do a planning meeting on Saturday. We can brainstorm what we want and how to do it," he suggested. "That sounds good. I have some seeds we could start with," replied a young man, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Tom's heart swelled, but then he remembered Mrs. Landry wasn't far from his mind. Just as quickly, her voice echoed again. One misstep, Tom, could he really lead them? The weight of responsibility felt heavy on his shoulders, like leads in a storm. But as they continued to chatter about the garden, he felt it, the future, bright and beckoning, even in its uncertainty. Energies intertwined as they bounced ideas off one another, and for the first time, there were smiles in the air. He turned to see Sarah tending to a table filled with refreshments, her face glowing. "You are really making a difference, Tom," she said, eyes shining. "They believe in you." "Do you really think so?" he whispered, the vulnerability spilling out. "I know so," she replied fiercely. "But we need to keep moving. You've opened the door. Now we all need to step through." Somewhere in the back, Mrs. Landry watched, arms crossed. Her gaze was scrutinizing, but today Tom decided he wouldn't let it rattle him. "Time for personal testimonies," he called out suddenly. "Whoever's interested, please share why they want to be part of this." A woman from the front, a mother with a warm smile, stood up. "I want my kids to grow up seeing community, not just empty streets," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Heads began to nod in agreement. One by one, others took their turn, stories of long-lost connections, the laughter of children, and shared meals. Each word built a fragile thread of unity among them, weaving a tapestry of collective hope. Just then, the door creaked open, and in walked an elderly man known for his wisdom and kind eyes. He shuffled to the front, pausing for a moment while everyone turned to him. "Talk is sweet, but action is better," he said, his voice steady and warm. "We can't just dream. We must push through our fears, or we'll remain in this same place." His words hit home, and Tom felt a rush of determination. "You're right. Let us agree right now to form our committee. We can hold each other accountable." Applause erupted, and with it came a wave of laughter and cheers. He felt that this was more than just a garden. It was a start, but then, a familiar chill ran down his spine as he caught Mrs. Landry's eye. "Just remember, Tom," she said coolly, "building trust takes time." "True, but we're willing to put in the effort," he replied, his voice steady, the hope he clung to steadying him. And as he returned to the joyful crowd, that flicker of fear shifted into flame. They could do this. Together. But as the meeting wound down and people began to leave, a nagging thought whispered in Tom's mind: what if they couldn't hold it together? What if their newfound excitement crumbled under the weight of reality? As he started to walk home, questions twisted like vines in his heart. It would take more than meetings and little projects. It demanded belief, perseverance, and maybe, just maybe, a touch of grace. Could he sustain it? The uncertainty loomed over him, thick as the morning fog. But as he turned to take one last look at the community center, he felt that familiar flicker of hope begin to grow again, sparking fire within him. Tomorrow was another chance, another step in their journey. With every step he took, he couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to happen. And as he rounded the corner, he had no idea that change was already set in motion. Would Mrs. Landry become a force for good, or would she oppose every move they made? Only time would tell, and Tom had to be ready for whatever lay ahead. The next morning the air was crisp, and Tom awoke with a sense of purpose washing over him. He felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted overnight. He got up, brewed his coffee, and stared out at the street, where sunlight danced on the pavement. The community garden wasn't just a project now, it was a lifeline. He decided to put on his favorite old flannel shirt, the one that reminded him of weekend family gatherings, where laughter filled the air and love blossomed. Today he would reach out to the neighbors, but first, he wanted to gather his thoughts. He pulled out a notepad and began jotting down ideas for the garden, sketches of vegetable beds, flower patches, maybe even a small seating area. With every stroke of his pencil, he imagined people coming together, planting seeds and sharing stories. He visualized children laughing and playing, an elderly gentleman teaching a young girl how to plant tomatoes. But getting there wasn't the only mountain to climb. The question of Mrs. Landry kept gnawing at him. Was she truly an obstacle, or could she be an ally in this venture? Tom grabbed his phone and sent a quick text to Sarah. "Let us meet up at the cafe before we start planning for the garden." A moment later his phone buzzed in response. "Sure. Can't wait to brainstorm." As he made his way to the cafe, he felt an undeniable thrill. The cobblestones crunched under his feet, deepening his connection to the street he'd walked since childhood. He paused outside the bakery, inhaling the sweet aroma of fresh bread, a comfort zone he realized he could use. He popped in and bought a few pastries, hoping to share them with the others. As he entered the cafe, Sarah waved from a corner booth, her smile brightening the space around her. They exchanged greetings and Tom set the pastries down, the assortment promising a warm start to their meeting. "I love it. You brought treats," Sarah exclaimed, her eyes lighting up as she reached for a chocolate croissant. "You must be feeling inspired." "More like fueled by caffeine and butter," he laughed, but the glow of enthusiasm was undeniable. "I've been thinking about how we can really integrate the garden into our community. I want it to be something everyone feels a part of." Sarah nodded, leaning in. "Absolutely. But I think we should also talk to Mrs. Landry. We can't ignore her, Tom. She has connections, resources. She could help us." He wished there were an easier way. He wasn't ready to face her critical eye again. "She doesn't trust us. She thinks we're just a group of wishful thinkers." "But what if we showed her we're serious?" Sarah pushed back gently. "What if we proposed something that aligned with her vision? Maybe that way we could turn her into our biggest supporter." Tom contemplated her words, feeling the pulse of possibility. Could they really turn an opponent into an ally? It felt like a long shot, but perhaps being open to that idea was his next step. "Okay, let us put together a proposal," he said, finally, excitement beginning to spark. "We can appeal to her sense of responsibility for the community." They spent the next hour drafting a simple plan, outlining the direction of the community garden, the benefits it would bring, and touching on Mrs. Landry's fears and ambitions. As they revised their proposal, laughter mingled with ideas, creating a warm atmosphere that invigorated Tom's spirit. By the time they were done, the sun hung high overhead, sending beams of light through the cafe windows, casting shadows that danced along the walls. Sarah looked at him, her expression earnest. "This can really work, Tom. But we need to be ready for her response." Tom nodded, the weight of her words resonating deeply within him. "I guess we'll know soon enough." He took a deep breath as they left the cafe, pastries long gone, but the taste of hope still lingering. As they approached the community center to present their ideas to Mrs. Landry, Tom's heart raced. What if she doesn't see this the way we do? He pondered. "Then we show her how we can change Oakwood," Sarah replied, her confidence infectious. Together they stepped into the familiar space, filled with the buzz of community energy. But as they approached the back room, Tom's spirits wavered. What awaited him beyond that door could alter everything. This was a moment that had the power to shift the course of their dreams. "Ready?" Sarah asked, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. Tom swallowed hard. "Let us do this." He pushed open the door and they walked inside. And there stood Mrs. Landry, arms crossed, a look of skepticism on her face. "Good morning, Tom." "Sarah." Her tone was cool, but there was an inquisitiveness in her eyes, a flicker of something deeper. The moment hung thick in the air, palpable and charged. Was that a hint of opportunity in her gaze? Tom fought to steady his breath. "We'd like to talk to you about the community garden." As he laid out their vision, he could feel the eyes of the room on him, the weight of each heartbeat echoing his spirit. Would she listen? The air thickened with anticipation. Would this be the start of something great? Or would they face disappointment yet again? As Tom spoke, he poured his heart into every word, revealing not just the plan for the community garden, but also the pulsing passion behind it. "This is not just a place to grow vegetables," he explained, his voice filling the room with conviction. "It's a chance to reconnect, to heal our community's wounds, To cultivate not just plants but relationships. We can do something meaningful together. Mrs. Landry listened intently, arms still crossed, but the skepticism in her eyes began to soften. "You've thought this through?" she inquired, a hint of curiosity breaking through her stern demeanor. "Absolutely," Sarah jumped in, showing a newfound enthusiasm. "We've got letters of support from neighbors ready to pitch in. They want to work with you, Tom, and with each other. It's time to turn past disappointments into future hope." Tom nodded in agreement, urging Mrs. Landry not just to see the garden, but the vision it represented, a lifeline for a town longing for connection. "I know we have a long way to go, and I'm not expecting trust right away. But together we can build towards something better. We need unity, and it starts right here." The silence that followed felt electric. Tom glanced around at the faces in the room. Some looked hopeful, others still skeptical. The weight of their expectations hung in the air, and he knew this was a defining moment. Could Mrs. Landry be swayed? Mrs. Landry remained quiet, her brow furrowing as she deliberated. "You know, Tom," she began slowly, "this town has lost faith in dreams before. We've been let down too many times." At this, Tom felt a pang in his chest. He understood her distrust. The years of disappointment echoed in her voice. "I get it," he replied earnestly. "But this is different. It's not just me, it's all of us working together. I promise to be here fully and to listen. This is for our community, all of us." After what felt like an eternity, Mrs. Landry exhaled slowly, the tension in her shoulders easing ever so slightly. "If you can pull this off, I will support you. But know this. I will hold you accountable, and I expect you to follow through." Tom's heart leaped. "Thank you. We won't let you down." Encouraged by Mrs. Landry's tentative acceptance, the other neighbors in the room began to warm to the idea. Voices began spilling over one another, excitement bubbling as they volleyed suggestions for the garden. "Let us have a plant sale. Who will handle the website? We can create a community event." In that moment, hope blossomed. Laughter filled the room, weaving a thread of unity that had long been dormant. With every new idea, they grasped the potential of what they could create together, a vibrant space that could flourish both physically and emotionally. Tom felt lighter as he stepped into the sunlight later, the warmth wrapping around him like a comforting embrace. "I can't believe it," he exclaimed to Sarah, who walked beside him, beaming. "This is just the beginning." "Yes, and we still have to plan a kickoff meeting, an event to officially launch the garden," Sarah suggested, her eyes sparkling with creativity. "Absolutely." He felt a rush of excitement at the thought of everyone coming together, planting the seeds of change. As they discussed ideas, Tom found his worries dissipating. They were a team, and that made all the difference. As the days passed, the project gathered momentum. Neighbors came together to clear the space, laughter echoing amidst the shovels and trowels. They shared stories, hopes, and dreams. The garden became a symbol of rebirth for Oakwood. As they broke ground, Tom realized he felt lighter. This wasn't just about cultivating soil. It was about cultivating community spirit. Standing there, with the rich earth beneath his feet and the smiles of his neighbors surrounding him, he felt overwhelmed with gratitude. Then, just as promised, Mrs. Landry began to lend her support as well, championing the project with renewed vigor, and for the first time, he saw community trust blossom. On the day of the garden's grand opening, Tom stood at the center, surrounded by a crowd of faces, neighbors, friends, a quilt of their community stitched together with love. He felt a sense of joy ripple through him, a blissful reminder of how far they had come together. With a deep breath, he spoke, "This garden represents more than just plants. It signifies our journey back to unity, to support, and to love. Let us nourish this connection together." And as they cheered, Tom marveled at how the storm that had once threatened to tear them apart had transformed into a celebration of resilience and hope. His journey was far from over, but he now understood that each day held the potential for a brighter Oakwood. A little girl leaned in, tugging on his coat. "Will you teach us how to plant?" "Of course," he said with a radiant smile, knowing he had found his purpose, a guiding light for all, rooted in compassion and community. Now, as the sun set over Oakwood, Tom was no longer a ghost drifting through shadows. He was a part of something vibrant, alive and real, a family forged anew beneath the branches of every growing tree. And with that, Tom Henderson knew he would never look back again. "Now it's your turn," Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is vital. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.